This is a Gem Mind Publishing production. Viewer discretion is advised.
Coffin Galahad's overwhelming results meant there was an insatiable desire for more planets to be terraformed. This drove the terraforming companies ever further into space, on a quest for worlds to transform. The economics of the trade made it very similar to the housing flipping business. Much of the same terminology was adopted in large part, so that most worlds were described by the term fixer-upper, with either cosmetic changes, minor repairs, major repairs, or structural issues. Cosmetic changes meant that the prospective planet only required a simple procedure to make it ready for life. One such procedure was atmospheric balancing, which involved bringing various gas concentrations in line with breathable levels, the equivalent to a house flipper applying a coat of paint. Structural issues meant that aspects like the size or the orbit of a planet needed to be altered. It could also mean that the planet lacked a molten iron core, and could therefore not produce its own protective electromagnetic field. In these cases, it would be necessary to implement expensive procedures like planetary scale adjustment or cosmic shielding. The amount and type of changes to be done determined if the planet was even worth the cost of transportation to survey it. Surveying a prospective world was the first step in the process, excluding the satellite observation. This is why, when the automated satellite came across a planet it classified as move-in ready, the news sent shockwaves throughout the assigned terraforming company. This was only a theoretically possible planetary state. It indicated a world that was perfect for inhabiting. This meant it was the right size, had the ideal proximity to the parent star, and had the correct atmospheric composition. Something like that was the equivalent of a house flipper finding a beautiful house located on prime property with no owner and no red tape. That alone should have kept them away, but their curiosity won out. Thus, the company sent out a surveying team. That team never returned, and the footage that came back from their lost A-class science vessel was instantly deemed classified and placed into deep storage by executive order of the Council of Apostles. When the council looked over the footage, they surmised early on that this world must belong to the exiles aboard one of the other arks. Before they reached the end, it was clear that this planet was essentially devoid of human life, or so it appeared. When all was said and done, the 12 apostles became the only ones permitted to keep their memories of ever watching the footage. The footage. This is an account of the activity recorded by the A-class science vessel, assigned to a surveying team numbering almost 500 souls. The surveying team arrived above a world with the company designation R030384X. It was noted that the planet was not just ready for life, it was already alive. The crew could see all manner of flora and fauna present on its surface. But there was no log of this world existing, and it was galactic law that all terraformed worlds were to be logged and mapped. Considering there were only 2 terraforming companies with the means and knowledge to achieve this, and each kept a close eye on the other, this thriving planet should not exist. Yet, here it was. After the launch and return of several probes from the ship, a small team of 25 researchers, 10 of which were armed security, boarded a scouting ship and traveled down to the planet's surface. The team spread out and traversed the world, expecting to find some trace of human activity. However, there were no villages, no cities, no civilization. On the 4th day of their expedition, this team inexplicably stumbled upon a lone cottage, built high up in the mountains, overlooking the ocean. With an order for caution issued, the surveyors advanced on the cottage. They found a single resident tending to a flower garden at the back of the house. This resident was male. He stood and turned to face them. The 10-man security team immediately raised their guns as his appearance was unnatural. The man's skin was like staring into the void of space, as if a nebula had come to life and embodied itself in a human form. Even more terrifying than this were his first words to them. The man said thus,
"You finally came down to see me. I was beginning to grow impatient."
There was a lengthy pause. Likely the researchers were unsure how to respond. The man continued to speak at this interval. He said thus,
"Pardon me. Where are my manners? It's been so long since I've had company. My name is Gog. This is my world, Vitria. You are all welcomed here. You and the other 475 visitors aboard your ship."
The team stared around for a bit, evidently in shock. The man spoke again at this continued silence. He said thus,
"Aren't you supposed to introduce yourselves now? Or is that not common practice anymore?" Ah, forget it. I'll see for myself.
With those words, he extended a hand toward them. A member of the research team was whisked away in an instant, drawn into his hand. As the palm of his hand made contact with the researcher's head, he put him to kneel like a schoolchild before him. The security fired, but one of the research officers immediately called for a ceasefire. The bullets already fired had merely entered and drifted off into the void that comprised the man's body, like some sort of sick optical illusion. At this point, the intervening research officer spoke directly to the strange man. He said thus,
"I apologize. My name is Arad Bort, and we are surveyors of the Orbital Forge."
The man responded in the same unhurried, cordial tone. He said thus,
This mind has already shown me all I need to know. So strange that you all have no knowledge of the God tongue. There seems to be a seal placed over your minds.
Before he even finished speaking, the team of 25 men appeared to react as though stepping out of a fog. They glanced around in confusion, staring at each other, at objects around them, at the ground and sky. Some men reached out for each other's faces, as if to confirm if they were real. To an outside eye, the scene was one of blind men suddenly struck with sight. The strange man continued, his voice taking on a sympathetic quality. He said thus,
How cruel and foolish. Did you really think humanity could survive like this? Did you not see the obvious results of our choice to leave the Earth behind? We have entered a world of the inverted, a world governed by death. We must minister to death and obediently serve our cold master. In our sunken condition, all we can do is fight for more time in the light, though inevitably we are doomed due to our defectiveness. This became our reality once we chose to step onto the arcs. Why not accept our condition? This is righteous penance for our hubris to set ourselves up as gods, to desire rulership over ourselves. Now let us play at being gods, shall we? False though we are.
The viewing. On the day the Council of 12 Apostles viewed the footage, they heard these words uttered, and it filled them with a sense of dread. Their fears were confirmed when the man calling himself Gog turned and seemed to face them on the pre-recorded video. Each member of the council could feel his gaze reaching out through the screen, crossing the barrier between past and present. Only it wasn't a mere coincidence. Gog was really watching them, peering into every last one of the members of the council and allowing them to look into him. A strange, disorienting feeling came over all of them as he spoke to them directly. As the room swam before their eyes, they teetered to their feet in an attempt to turn it off and even manually cut the power, but the footage had a will of its own. It seemed the video itself was supplying the equipment with its own power source. The dazed council was forced to destroy the projector. In the midst of the chaos and sparks, they all turned to one another in unison, realizing what had just happened. And they each knew what must be done. Gog was clearly a high-level God tongue user. Even a mere video recording of him was enough to act as a conduit. He could perceive and influence them via footage made light years away in the past. This was an advanced ability that even the apostles were unfamiliar with. They could sense their minds had been peered into by his little trick, but he had also allowed them to look into his. The council had not known fear like this before. Gog had a completely different outlook to them. His goals and ambitions were vastly different. He saw the council as incapable and doomed to failure. He saw humans for what they were, unfit to live apart from the beings who made them. As such, everyone in this new galaxy's life was ultimately pointless. The only hope was for one to become an anti-god. The apostles deduced that Gog was the only survivor of an ark, and if so, there was no telling how powerful he truly was. Even with the full might of a galactic armada, with all its weapons of mass destruction backing them, they would be no match for this highly skilled God tongue user. If they wanted to ensure their survival, they needed more allies skilled in the God tongue. The first step was to release the bind on their own minds, so that they could use the God tongue to the fullest capacity. Later they went on to create a special group of elite military units they designated divinators.
This has been a Gem Mine publishing production. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Your support means the world to us. If you'd like to go the extra mile in supporting our work, consider checking out our books available on our website or on Amazon. Your purchase directly contributes to the creation of more content. Thank you for being a part of the Gem Mine publishing community. We can't wait to bring you more captivating content in the future.